Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Patrick Grandy. I am the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office. I'd like to welcome members of the press and thank you for your continued partnership and interest in today's announcement. I'd also wish to express our appreciation to our partners here today for their diligent work in a collaboration in addressing the threats posed by transnational drug trafficking organizations. Today's press conference will include remarks from several key leaders who have played important roles in this matter. After their statements, we will take a brief round of questions. So at this time, I'd like to turn it over to First Assistant United States Attorney Bill Assaley.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning, everyone. This morning, my office is unsealing 3 indictments charging 37 defendants with racketeering, extortion, and drug trafficking stemming from a multi-year investigation into India-based organized crime groups. As part of today's takedown, law enforcement has arrested approximately 24 defendants across the United States, Canada, and Europe, and we've executed 42 search warrants within the Central District of California and the Eastern District of California. These criminal organizations have engaged in widespread violence, including targeted killings, extortions, and kidnappings. The organizations have flooded communities around the country with massive quantities of cocaine and methamphetamine. This is just a small sample of their product here. The organizations have preyed in particular on communities in the United States and Canada with ties to India, and routinely extorted these individuals and their family members in India by threatening them with physical harm and death. The 3 indictments target 3 separate criminal gangs, including high-level leaders who directed from abroad violence and drug trafficking in the United States. And you can see this is a international drug and organized crime operation, and you'll see some of the countries here that are implicated in today's indictments. The 3 indictments, again, we have 3 indictments. 15 of the defendants in the United States are in the United States here illegally. One of the defendants, Gurdeep Singh, even attempted to extort victims while he was in ICE custody. The first indictment is against the Lawrence Bishnoi organized crime group, an international crime gang consisting of thousands of members worldwide, and charges 9 defendants. It is led from India by the defendant, the lead defendant, Lawrence Bishnoi. 7 of the defendants, including the organization's figurehead, the gang's North American leader, Goldy Brar, and the gang's European leader, Rot Godara, are charged with racketeering conspiracy. The charges set forth in the indictment include allegations that Lawrence Bishnoi and Goldy Brar directed the 2023 assassination of a prominent Sikh leader in Canada, identified by his initials HSN in the indictment. The gang used this assassination and other high-profile acts of violence to terrorize Sikh and other Indian communities, and they used acts of violence to legitimize and bolster widespread extortion schemes. The indictment also charges Bishnoi, Brar, and others with trafficking cocaine and methamphetamine in the LA area, including by stealing hundreds of pounds of drugs from rival drug trafficking groups. The second indictment charges 17 defendants alleged to be members or associates of the Jagu Bhagwanpuria organized crime group. Like defendant Bishnoi, defendant Bhagwanpuria led this international gang from a jail cell in India. As part of the racketeering and extortion charges, the indictment spells out how, among other things, this gang would partner with corrupt law enforcement officials in India to falsely accuse enemies of crimes within India. One of the defendants, Gurdeep Singh, is a police chief in India charged with attempting to extort victims here in Los Angeles by threatening to file a false murder charge against them in India. This organization engaged also in drug trafficking in the LA area. The gang's leader, defendant Bhagwanpuria personally directed the transportation and distribution of large loads of cocaine within California from his jail in India. He'll be coming to our jails here soon, hopefully in the next few weeks. Finally, the third indictment charges 11 defendants with various drug trafficking charges. The organization targeted in this indictment would use commercial semi-trucks to move hundreds of pounds of cocaine and methamphetamine each week across the United States and into Canada for other drug trafficking organizations. The indictment charges the Canadian leader of the organization, Ravindir Singh Danda, together with his lieutenants. Defendant Danda is facing a mandatory minimum of life imprisonment for his role in leading this massive drug trafficking operation. Working together, law enforcement across multiple continents took a major step towards stopping 3 transnational organized crime groups that murder, maim, extort, and traffic drugs, leaving trails of pain and devastation in their wake. We will use the full weight and power of the United States federal government to identify, target, and dismantle these organized crime groups who prey on American communities. We are not going to allow anyone to engage in violent activities on American soil, especially those that are here unlawfully in our country. I want to introduce our next speaker now, Patrick Grandy, the Assistant Director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles Field Office.
These investigations are only possible through our partnerships on task forces like Los Angeles' Homeland Security Task Force, which conducted this investigation. This case was initiated in response to escalating violence impacting California, Canada, Europe, and the United States by groups claiming allegiance to Lawrence Bishnoi and Jagu Bhagwanpuria organized crime groups. These violent acts include political and religious assassinations, shootings, murders, kidnappings, extortions, assaults, weapons, and drug trafficking. During the investigation, FBI agents and law enforcement officials seized over 1,000 kilograms of drugs and dozens of weapons. Some of that is on display here today for you. Investigators also identified organizations' global leadership to include Lawrence Bishnoi, based in India, and the North American leader, Sanderjeet Singh, also known as Goldie Brar, based in the United States, and Gurlal Singh, based here in California. As pointed out by the first Assistant United States Attorney, for years, the Lawrence Bishnoi and Jagu Bhagwanpuria organized crime groups have fueled violence, fear, and instability within the East Indian communities throughout California and abroad. Through a pattern of intimidation and violence, members and associates of this organized crime group have victimized business owners, threatened individuals and their families, and retaliated with assaults, kidnappings, shootings, and other violent acts to enforce their criminal demands. Members and associates of these organized crime groups are engaged in extortion in many of the communities in which the enterprise operated, including the United States and in Canada. Members obtained pattern of life information on extortion targets and their families, often focusing on family members located in India. In certain instances, members and associates of the organized crime group would use corrupt law enforcement officials in India to aid in their extortion schemes. These organized crime groups recruited new members primarily from vulnerable, disadvantaged populations in India. Minors are targeted for recruitment to minimize sentencing exposures and monetary costs of violence. These actions have harmed victims dramatically under public safety. Today, agents and officers with the agency you see beside me here today and other partners executed 50 federal search warrants and arrested 24 defendants. 24 targets are currently in custody. Of the 50 warrants executed, 23 were in the Sacramento area, 19 in Los Angeles, and 7 in Canada. 11 defendants were arrested without incident in California in the cities of Los Angeles, San Ysidro, Menatone, Fontana, Fresno, Manteca, Sacramento, Stockton, and San Jose. 1 defendant was taken into custody in Indianapolis and 1 in Georgia. 3 defendants were taken into custody by Canadian authorities. 1 defendant was taken into custody by Spanish authorities. 7 individuals were already in custody. Law enforcement is continuing to seek additional subjects who are considered fugitives. Their photographs can be found here. While key members of the Lawrence Bishnoi and Bhagwanpuri organized crime groups were successfully apprehended this week, Sanderjeet Singh, also known as Goldie Brar, also known as Sanderjeet Jing Singh Brar, remains at large. And the FBI is offering a reward of up to $50,000 for information that is leading to his arrest and extradition. I'll put his photo up now. Anyone with information on his whereabouts is urged to contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or online at tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact the nearest United States Embassy with information. We could not have accomplished these arrests without the unparalleled assistance from our law enforcement partners, locally and internationally. I want to specifically thank the following agencies for their contributions: the Los Angeles Police Department, and DEA, CBP, ATF, HSI, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Civil Guard of Spain, the Regional Narcotics Suppression Program, Orange County Sheriff's Department, Brownsburg Police Department in Indiana, FBI offices in Sacramento, Buffalo, and San Francisco, and FBI legal attaché offices in Madrid, New Delhi, Ottawa, and Mexico City. In closing, the threats we face today in our world are too diverse, dangerous, and complex for any one of us to tackle alone. Today's coordinated operation strikes at the heart of these brutal transnational organizations that have terrorized families, exploited communities, and stolen lives through ruthless acts of violence in the United States and abroad. We, alongside our partners, remain steadfast in our commitment to identifying these violent organizations, disrupting their activities, and ensuring they face the justice they deserve. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to Los Angeles Police Department Chief Jim McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, and I want to just thank our federal, state, local, and international law enforcement partners and the members of the media, all of you, for being here today to be able to tell this story. Today we recognize the outstanding work of the Violent Transnational Organized Crime Task Force, or VTOC, and the exceptional partnership that made Operation Hardball a success. Over the past 2 years, investigators from the FBI, Los Angeles Police Department's Gang and Narcotics Division, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police collaborated to dismantle an East Indian organized crime groups operating across the United States, Canada, and around the world. Their investigation targeted organizations responsible for murder, extortion, kidnapping, and weapons and narcotics trafficking in Los Angeles. We will not allow that to continue in this city. For 2 years, investigators shared intelligence, followed leads across international borders, and built a case designed not simply to make arrests, but to dismantle an entire criminal network. As you've already heard, the results speak for themselves. More than 1,000 kilograms of cocaine were seized, along with illegal firearms, including fully automatic machine guns. But these aren't just statistics, they represent lives in our city, protected, violence prevented, and communities made safer. The true measure of this operation isn't found in the arrests or seizures alone, it's found in what they represent. A unified commitment among the LAPD and our federal and international partners to relentlessly pursue those who threaten our communities. Operation Hardball has fundamentally changed the operating environment for these criminal organizations. Those who once believed they could use Los Angeles as a base for their criminal enterprises now know that they'll be identified, investigated, and held accountable. To every investigator, analyst, and law enforcement professional who contributed to this operation, thank you. Your professionalism, dedication, and perseverance had made a real difference and sent a clear message. Los Angeles will never be a safe haven for organized crime. Criminal organizations do not recognize borders, and neither does our commitment to bringing them to justice. Thank you. Now I'd like to bring up a great partner, the Commissioner of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Mike Dudem. Mike, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Today we are proud to say that after a 2-year investigation, we have dismantled the leadership of 3 criminal organizations that inflicted pain and cruelty on people, victims around the globe. Lawrence Bishnoi, Ravindra Danda, Jagu Bagapura, some of the most cruel and wide-reaching criminals whose crimes range from kidnapping to extortion, to murder, to shootings, to arson, to drug trafficking, and many others. These groups are known to prey on the less fortunate to carry out the criminal activities. At the same time, we're putting a stop to a significant flow of drugs and firearms into Canada. We accomplished this thanks to the efforts of thousands of officers here in the United States and in Canada who today executed search warrants and arrests, immediately halting the ability of these criminals to continue to terrorize people in both countries and beyond. Specifically, of those indicted, 3 Canadians have been arrested today. They've been arrested in British Columbia, while a 4th one is still sought in Europe. All these individuals played a significant leadership role in directing criminal activities impacting multiple countries. Our work today makes our communities, cities, provinces, states, and countries much safer. But it also is a symbol of something even greater. Strong and reliable collaboration that made this operation possible. Information sharing and intelligence sharing that translated to action that led to the takedown of these groups. The world has gotten smaller. These groups operate transnationally, and so must law enforcement. The RCMP was embedded with the FBI in an investigation that included operations and evidence gathering in US, Canada, Mexico, France, Spain. International collaboration allows us to find criminals where they operate, enables us to target leadership structures or criminal groups responsible for destabilizing public safety in countries around the globe. The RCMP contributed knowledge and investigative power that helped lead to today's arrests and charges. The RCMP works in close coordination with law enforcement community in Canada to foster integrated investigative partnership, and we won't stop here. Thanks to the foundational collaboration that we have here, we built through this operation, we will continue to hold international criminals to account. We will map networks, gather evidence, capitalize on each other's strengths and capabilities, and continue to dismantle organized crime groups. We will continue to take these steps together to enhance public safety here in Canada and around the world. Last, and it goes without saying, the result being announced today would not be possible without the dedication and professionalism of the women and men of the agency standing here today. A lot of sacrifice goes into the file that lasts 2 years, and I want to thank everyone who worked on this file. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I just want to follow up on something the police chief said is very important. It's hard to overstate the importance of this operation today. This isn't a matter of just simply arresting a street dealer here or a gang member there. This is doing what the Department of Justice does best, dismantling organized criminal organizations. That's what we do. We go after the leadership, and we take out the entire leadership structure and organizers of these crime groups. So only the Department of Justice can arrest almost 40 people in a day and execute 50 search warrants, which is going to have a devastating blow on these 3 criminal transnational organized organizations. So I just want to really emphasize how important this is today, and we hope it's going to have a massive, massive positive impact on communities, not only here in LA, but throughout the world and in Canada. So with that, we're happy to take a few questions. Yes, sir.
Can you elaborate on, you mentioned a man named Gordy Singh conducting extortion operations from ICE custody. Mm-hmm. Any more specifics on what he did, talking to intermediaries, using a cell phone, and who was he trying to extort, how?
Yeah, essentially,
we also need to know
Say
who you
your
are,
name.
sir.
it's Declan Conroy with the U.S. Attorney's Office. that defendant was, as set forth in the indictment, using devices, we believe they were kind of smuggled into his cell to extort a victim in Ohio who received hundreds of calls, including calls threatening her with death if she didn't pay money to the organization.
Yes, ma'am.
Could you expand on the religious assassinations that you mentioned and how that ties into the group's organization?
Yeah, they were targeting the Sikh community. Is that something that you could probably speak more to that happened in,
Yeah,
in
no,
Canada?
Sure, yeah, so I can share it. It happened in June 2023. This is demonstration of collaboration where having people embedded, the speed and flow of information is actually much faster. And this, as we're investigating these three organizations, we communicated with the Integrated Homicide Unit in British Columbia, and the RCMP was involved through its project eProfanity to share the information that resulted in the indictments that you hear here today.
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that 15 are in the U.S. illegally.
Yes.
How many of those who were arrested are U.S. citizens?
Are any U.S. citizens? We'll have to check. We'll get you those numbers. We just highlighted how many don't have status here in the U.S. So at least 15 of the ones arrested here.
And then a follow-up. Is there any significance to the timing of these arrests? Was there about to be a big event that was going to take place, or an assassination thwarted?
No, and we're not aware of any impending major event. This was a long multi-year investigation. It takes a long time to put this evidence together and present the information to the grand jury. The grand jury returned the indictments recently, and then we're working with our law enforcement partners to just put a plan together to go out and arrest people. There's a lot of work that goes into arresting people throughout the world all at the same time. So that's what a lot of the work went into. But no, there isn't any specific impending assault or activity that we know about. Yes, sir.
If you would, explain how this actually works in as much as the sequence. We have people here from India who are here legitimately, both in the United States and Canada. Criminals know they're here, target these people because there's money here by threatening their relatives back in India. Is that the way this chain works?
There's many ways it works, but a lot of the organizers, a lot of people involved are from India. And so they either came here on a visa and overstayed or came in some other way, but that's how they got in the US. But they prey on people here in the US who still have ties back to India, because using corrupt law enforcement officials there, they can threaten them with false charges. They can threaten to harm their families back in India if they don't pay money here. So the extortion activities are happening here in LA and California, but they're using family members and law enforcement officials in India to extract the money from folks here, from the victims.
When you're talking about the narcotics that are involved here, you mentioned they were stealing these from other cartels. That's
Other gang groups, yeah.
Other gang groups. Any of the known cartels that are here already that we know this stuff's coming from?
Well, most of the drugs that you see here all come pretty much from Mexico. All of it comes from cartel. And so there are different groups that take the drugs and transport it. Again, the ultimate destination for a lot of the drugs ends up being not California, either other parts of the US or Canada. And so that's why this is why it's an important case to Canada, because California was the highway, if you will, for how the drugs get there. So the destinations can be all over. We're often just the transit point.
So we were basically, these guys were using their own intel on the streets to determine who was bringing in stuff, tag them, take the stuff and do it that way.
These are violent gangster thugs, and they did bad things, they did violent things, and they stole drugs from other gangsters. Nobody was off limits for them. Yes, sir.
You mentioned an Indian police chief being charged, possibly threatening someone here to frame. Can you just elaborate on that? Like, who is he? Where is he a police chief?
Well, he's a police chief in India. I don't have the specific city for you, but my understanding is that he was part of a scheme where they extorted a family here in Los Angeles for approximately $400,000 was the demand, and if they didn't pay it, that he was going to charge their family members in India with murder. And I think he actually did file murder charges against the family in India until the victim eventually agreed to pay the money.
Is that chief currently in custody?
That chief is not in custody yet, but he will be shortly.
So you're fair to say you're seeking extradition? Or?
Yeah, we have charged him, and we will extradite him to the U.S. Yes, sir.
Are there any cases of folks who are arrested in California today that are particularly dramatic or illustrative of the operations of the gang that you guys could highlight for us?
Yeah, I don't. Do you know? I don't have a breakdown of each defendant. One of the main leaders, though, was arrested in Stockton this morning, and he's one of the leaders. His name is. Gurlal Singh was one of the main leaders. He was arrested this morning in Stockton by the FBI office up there. We're happy after this, we can give you a breakdown of which defendants were arrested locally and what their conduct was in the indictment. There's a lot of defendants here, so bear with us. Yes, sir.
What's the level of cooperation you're getting from Indian authorities? Obviously, some of this ties back to, like you had said, orders being made from jail cells in India.
My understanding is the Indian authorities have been very cooperative. I mean, these guys are a major problem, not here, but not just here, but also in India. And they do the same activities there where they engage in violence and extortion and other activities. And so I think India is very happy with today's operation, and they're happy that we're going after this. Look, the United States is unique in that we have the power to reach people outside our borders. We can, some of these guys are already in jail cells in India, so obviously that's not enough to restrain their activities. When they come to a federal penitentiary here in the United States, I guarantee you, he won't be extorting any more victims once he's in our custody for hopefully a very long time. A few more questions. Yes. Beth.
Maybe the chief can talk a little bit about how the LAPD works with federal enforcement on this, how the LAPD did collaborate with federal enforcement on this project.
Yeah, we work on a daily basis with our federal partners, our state partners as well as international partners when that's appropriate. We work in task force configuration. None of us have the resources to be able to do what we'd like to be able to do on our own. But together, it's a very, very strong presence, and we have the ability to be able, as you see in this case, to be able to work internationally, to be able to hold people accountable who we use in LA as kind of the crossroads of their criminal enterprise, whether it's drugs, extortion, murder, or other things that have been laid out in this indictment. So it really is a collaborative effort. It is a team sport, if you will. Without our partners, we would not be anywhere nearly as effective as we are today, and we wouldn't be able to keep the people of Los Angeles as safe as we can with this collaboration.
Mr. Asali, if you would, two questions. Communication is half of these illegal operations. What guarantee do you have that the people you're arresting aren't going to be able to continue to communicate from jails and continue to run operations? I mean, how are we going to work that?
Yeah, no, the Bureau of Prisons has the personnel and policies in place to prevent that. Their calls are recorded. There's a lot of measures that go into that, and also, you know, our attorneys will be watching for any of that activity as well. But no, the Bureau of Prisons is well equipped to handle that sort of activities. Yeah.
We're talking about basically putting people into either max or supermax facilities where they don't have access to communications, or if they do.
Well, even if they have access to communications, those are monitored or recorded, and so we have ways of making sure they're not engaged in further criminal activity while they're in Bureau of Prisons custody. And I will just say, federal prison is very different from state prison. You can go to some of these state prisons; they're basically like day camps. People walking around. They're not very locked down. That's not typically how it is at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Maybe one more question.
So before we wrap up, there's
Yes.
a couple from our.
We
to the
got
north.
yes online.
This one I think you've already addressed. Our defendants currently in Indian jail going to be extradited. I believe you've addressed
Yes.
that. And then the last question, if possible to answer: 3 arrests in British Columbia. Can we say where in British Columbia?
We're all 3 individuals were arrested in the greater Vancouver area. There's small communities around Vancouver, one Surrey, White Rock, is it White Rock? And West Vancouver as well. No incidents, but I do want to highlight one of the key leaders, Danda. He's been a person of interest, a high value target for us. And here's a good example of bringing agencies together across the border to targeting a key leader from an organization. So.
Bill, do we have anything in the way of monetary levels on how much these guys were generating a year in income?
Well, we have, I think we have numbers. I don't know if we have a calculator this morning, but just the drugs alone you're talking about millions of dollars. I mean,
Last question, anyone else?
Multi-million-dollar operation for sure. One more question.
I'm
Or not. The last one, yeah.
Just a little bit more, if you can, on the phone getting into ICE custody. Did you guys determine how that happened? Has anyone been charged with doing that? And was the allegation that other members of the organization smuggled the phone in, or are we looking at a prison official?
I'll let Declan answer. Declan's one of the assistant U.S. attorneys who's worked this case.
So we're still looking into that. I think another way this could have happened is by using other individuals' kind of phone lines. We have the recorded communications from this defendant, and he was clearly using other lines to communicate. Whether that was a phone smuggled in or other lines, we're still looking into that issue.
Okay, so not necessarily, so we're not sure a cell phone was used, just that he gave orders from ICE custody to carry
That were not
out
recorded on his line, correct?
Okay.
So he was in ICE custody, able to communicate either through other lines or a smuggled in line to this family that was extorted in Ohio.